operations are contributing to the maintenance and to the continued operation of this kadiwa, no? So, kailangan, and it has been really very successful, especially during the pandemic, no? Dun sa nung pandemic, especially yung sinasabi nating pushcart kadiwa or roll-on kadiwa that went into the subdivisions, primarily for those na hindi talaga makakalabas sa bahay, talagang napaka-importante ito noon. And I think the importance of kadiwa remains, no? Kasi it's a direct, market for the produced of our producers, of our farmers, our fisher folk. It cuts logistics cost. It assures them of a ready market for their produce. So, basta nagkaroon ng peak harvest, punta lahat sa kadiwa. And then it also tries to stabilize the prices. Kasi because of this logistics cost cut and there's no more middleman that, this produce go from one place to another, talagang napakababa yung presyo. And it really benefited a lot of consumers. Actually, yung regular kadiwa, 1.83 million of consumers have been benefiting from this regular kadiwa. So that's the main reason kung bakit natin kailangan na palawigin. And as the President has already mentioned, he really wants or wishes to have a kadiwa in every locality, in every municipality, no? And, this will assure ready market ready market for producers, assure availability of sufficient supply sa ating mga consumers at lower prices, so talagang very affordable. And it really, absorbs also excess produce that, kasi hindi natin naiiwasan na tayo ay nagkakaroon ng bumper harvest. So with all these kadiwa centers around, there is always a place for our producers, to have their markets, their produced marketed. So, but, this has to be put in a strategic places. And I think it's high time that we really need to make some assessment on how, the kadiwa has really been, performing and how it really has benefited both the farmers and the consumers. And, I think we'll need to have a study with regards to that so that we can identify more specific interventions where we can place this kadiwa where they are most needed, and that will make them, a little bit more, much more valuable than what they are probably giving now.
Thank you, Yusek Sombilla. We'll get back to you later. Let's move on to DPWH Secretary Bonoan. Many of our country's farmers and fishermen still face challenges in transporting their produce. Thus, what are the DPWH's efforts towards establishing an efficient food logistics chain that will help farmers and fishermen sell their produce?
Thank you, Daphne, for that question. Well, the Department of Public Works and Highways, as the infrastructure arm of government, is actually supporting itong food security program of the President, actually. When before, actually, DPWH was just implementing yung farm-to-market roads. But I think the President says that it's not only farm-to-market roads. We have to develop actually other facilities that would support yung mga production areas ng agriculture. From July of last year to May of this year, the department was able to build 216 kilometers of farm-to-market roads at saka 8 kilometers of farm-to-mill roads. Pasimula lang po lang yun. Kasi nagsisimulang pala naman kami yung mga taon na yan. But now, alam po ninyo, in 2023, the Department of Agriculture has downloaded to us a total of, I think, about more than 14 billion pesos worth of farm-to-market roads, about 1,000 kilometers yata yung gagawin namin. And this will significantly support actually yung food production, food security program of the government. Recently, meron din kaming, we have entered into a memorandum of agreement with the the National Irrigation Administration, yung tinatawag ko naming kalsada tungo sa patubigan o katubigan program. It's a convergence program that aims to implement small water impounding projects, small river impounding projects, and service road infrastructure projects. Now, we are again just starting in 2023 with a small amount, less than ₱500 million pesos for now, para dun sa mga service roads inside the production areas of the National Irrigation Administration, and then we are going to start developing yung mga small water impounding projects, 2024 will be a more robust allocation for NIA, for National Irrigation Administration, kasi ito yung in-emphasize ni Presidente, yung small water impounding projects at saka small river impounding projects, and plus, actually, if we can tap actually yung sa mga flood control programs namin for possible source of water sa National Irrigation Administration. Of course, hindi lang naman yan dun sa sa Department of Agriculture o NIA. Meron din kaming convergence program with the Department of Trade and Industry for the construction of road access to small and medium enterprises all over the country. And this is a big program that we are undertaking. Medyo malaki yung budget din namin dito, and we are coordinating closely with DTI in the identification and prioritization of their projects all over the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Bonoan. The Department of Trade and Industry. The DTI has been a key partner of the Department of Agriculture in putting up the Kadiwa stores around the country, having served more than 1.8 million families in total. Kasama ring natutulungan ay ang mga MSMEs. Would you please tell us more about the DTI's commitment, not only in protecting consumers, but in helping our micro, small, medium enterprises?
Oh, yes. Thank you for the question. Just for context, we'd like to say that the DTI, since 2007, has been having this program of Descuento Caravan. If you are familiar with the Descuento Caravan, this is a project of the DTI where we bring in all manufacturers of local basic necessities and prime commodities for the consumers to be able to purchase at manufacturer's cost. So came 2017, 2018, with our collaboration with the Department of Agriculture, we converged them into the Kadiwa, Descuento Caravan Kadiwa project. And so now, with the order of the President, we decided to just have the Descuento Caravan incorporated into the Kadiwa ng Pangulo. So now, we just provide full support. I understand that basic necessities and prime commodities that are manufactured are still found in Kadiwa centers all over the country. And prices are still bought at, these goods are still bought at prices from the manufacturing. So, hindi natin inalis yun, and then we continue to, of course, encourage other MSMEs to be able to assist or provide their goods there, kasi it's a platform where everyone is everyone is invited to bring in their goods for purchase of the consumers, provided that the cost is low. We, of course, continue to help micro, small, and medium enterprises by doing this, kasi hindi naman lahat ng nagdadala doon sa Kadiwa ay malalaki. These are micro and small, di ba? Kukonti lang nga yung medium dyan. And then the platform that we provide for them is for them to be able to sell their wares at minimal cost siguro, if at all. And then there, of course, we cannot discount the collateral businesses that are created through this. Secretary Pascual would like to call it as a nano enterprise. Those that supply the small enterprises, those that supply micro enterprises with maybe baskets for containers of their produce, or maybe assisting them in the arrangement, goods and services. Actually, even the person in the bicycle who can assist the micro enterprise in bringing in or completing his display in the Kadiwa Center. So the DTI does not discount any enterprise here, and in fact, we support even the nano enterprises in all Kadiwa stores nationwide.
Okay, thank you, Yusek Castelo. And we're still talking about Kadiwa. And since this is really a multi-agency effort, the DILG recently signed a memorandum of agreement with the DA to assist local government units to facilitate the establishment of Kadiwa centers in their respective localities. Please tell us more about this MOA and paano po ito ipapatupad ng ating mga LGUs? What are the benefits of opening a Kadiwa store in every locality? Yusek Parasaba.
Yeah, hi Miss Daphne, good afternoon. And of course, sa lahat ng mga nakikinig at nanonood sa atin, magandang hapon sa ating lahat. The Department of the Interior and Local Government is composed of the interior sector and of course the local government sector. And why we are here, Secretary Benhar Abalos himself, the leader of the DILG, is a champion for food security, supportive, of course, of PBBM's agenda. And aligned with Secretary, of course, of BBM's SONA instruction, paulit-ulit na binanggit po ng ating mahal na Pangulo ang suporta at ang tulong ng ating lokal na pamahalaan sa pagtataguyod ng food security sa ating bansa. It is in this essence wherein we had inked with various national government agencies a memorandum of agreement that formalizes the interconnectedness and of course the collaboration and partnership of various national government agencies na mararamdaman at mas klaro na i-implement natin ang kadiwa ng Pangulo sa lahat ng mga 81 na probinsya, 146 na urbanized cities, and of course independent component cities, and of course 1,400 plus na municipalities and 42,000 plus na barangays. It is really a gargantuan task. Malaki ang responsibilidad ng ating mga lokal na pamahalaan, Miss Daphne. And for that MOA on last July 17, 2023, no less than the very good President Bongbong Marcos had really launched and at the same time witnessed the MOA signing with the big department agencies na tumulong at tutulong sa ating lokal na pamahalaan. Paano ipapatupad ang kadiwa ng Pangulo sa ating mga lokal na pamahalaan? Proactive as he is, Secretary Benhar Abalos issued a memorandum circular outlining and at the same time defining the operational mechanism of the kadiwa ng Pangulo, of course, sa ating mga lokal na pamahalaan. Mas klaro dahil nandiyan ang Department of Agriculture to really help for the food supply, Department of Trade and Industry for non-agriculture products, Department of Labor and Employment as well for their TUPAD projects. And of course, the SWD as well as PCO and PMS and the DILG to institutionalize and at the same time to establish one kadiwa ng Pangulo Center sa lahat ng ating probinsya, syudad at munisipalidad. Strategic dapat. Strategic wherein our local community residents must have a good access for an adequate and available food supply na mura at de kalidad. At ano naman ang benepisyo ng kadiwa ng Pangulo? As mentioned by the Department of Agriculture, mas mura, mas presko, mas may kalidad, at mas nutritious. Kasi syempre, direct from the source and at the same time, ma-access ito ng iba't ibang sectors ng ating mga lokal na pamahalaan. Ms. Daphne.
Thank you, Yusek Parasaba. Kitang-kita naman natin na this multi-agency effort is really working at parang gusto ko nang bumili ng mga fresh produce. Okay, let's move on to the Department of Agrarian Reform, Secretary Estrella. The President said Isang taon mula noong aking unang SONA na isapatas na ang bagong Agrarian Emancipation Act. Dahil dito, ang 57 bilyong pisong utang na pinapasan ng mahigit 600,000 benepisyaryo ay tuluyan ng nabura. The Agrarian Emancipation Act is now a law, truly is a gift to our farmers. Please tell us more about this and the status of its implementation and how was this received by our farmers?
Thank you, Daphne. Unang-una, ang pamimigay ng lupa na may kasama pang utang noon ay inumpisahan ng ama ng ating mahal na Pangulo, si President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. at a certain Secretary Conrado Estrella Sr. Sila ay namigay ng lupa noon at ito ay confined lamang sa rice and corn. At nung araw, meron kasamang utang yan. Merong amortization na babayadan yan sa Land Bank of the Philippines. Sapagkat nung araw ay wala naman mga weather disturbances gaano. Wala naman tayong pandemic. Wala naman tayong mga masyadong problema nung araw. Kaya't ang mga magsasaka noon ay nakakabayad. Sila ay kumikita kahit papano. Fast forward, sinibak-sibak natin ang lahat ng lupa, including crops that require vast tracts of lands for them to engage in economies of scale. Kaya nakita naman doon na bumaba ang ating production. Statistics will not lie, bumaba ang ating production. Pagkatapos, meron na naman mga sumunod na developments na nag-issue naman tayo dahil siguro gusto natin magmadali. Gusto natin pag-ibayuhin ang pagdidistribute ng Certificate of Land Ownership Awards. Kanya, nag-issue tayo ng tinatawag na collective CLOA. What is a collective CLOA? Collective CLOA means a title that is distributed, and this title, for example, covers about 200 hectares. At meron din nakalagay doon na 200 din ang may-ari. Fine. I don't see anything wrong with that, except that nalimutan natin na i-parcelize. So, can you just imagine how confusing it would be if there will be 200 owners for a 200 hectare lot, and without telling, ikaw Juan, dito ka sa malapit sa paanan ng bundok, ikaw Pedro, doon ka malapit sa daan, ikaw Daphne, doon ka sa malapit sa irigasyon. So, it's very confusing, no? Plus, nagkaroon ngayon ng pandemic at grabe yung climate change ngayon, yung weather disturbances. And then, nagkaroon pa ng problema because the payments of amortization fees were not exactly updated. So if you compare the data of Land Bank and you compare the data to the data of Department of Agrarian Reform, meron nakikita kang diferensya. You cannot reconcile it. Pagkatapos, meron pang mga developments na talagang global developments, uncontrollable global developments, no? Kaya nahirapan na yung mga magsasaka natin ngayon. And because of that, they are unable to pay already the amortization fees that they have to pay. Nahirapan na ang ating mga magsasaka na makabayad. Kanya't, napag-usapan namin ni Secretary Benjokno at ganun din ang ating mahal na Pangulo na hindi rin naman nakakabayad ang ating magsasaka at mahihirapan na talaga sila. Noon, namigay naman ng lupa ang ating ninuno, bakit hindi natin gawing mas maigi ngayon? Mamigay tayo ng lupa na libre na para matulungan ang ating mga magsasaka. Hence, the emergence of Republic Act 11953, which is known as the new Agrarian Emancipation Act. Ito ay ang pagkondon ng lahat ng mga utang amortization fees na babayadan ng ating mga magsasaka. At napakalaking bagay nito, it is nicknamed, by the way, the Happy Law. Napakalaking bagay nito sapagkat this is going to free our farmers, our agrarian reform beneficiaries from the sa kanilang mga utang, no? At magkakaroon sila ng surplus income at dahil diyan pwede silang they can now, because they have surplus income, they can now engage in a more modernized and mechanized farming, no? Meron silang magagastos na additional na puhunan. At itong new Agrarian Emancipation Act or the Happy Law, ang sinasabi nga ng mga senador, no? Ito ay produkto ng pagtutulong-tulong ng maraming sektor ng ating republika. Nandyan ang mga senador, nandyan ang mga congressman na tumulong sa atin, ang membro ng mga kabinete, ang ating Pangulo, at siyempre ang Department of Agrarian Reform. And maraming contribution ang nagawa ng ating mga kasamahan sa DAR dahil dyan, no? At siyempre ang mga ating mga kababayan, no? This is the product of a united front. At ito ay naayon sa batas dito sa Happy Law, ayon sa provision ng New Agrarian Emancipation Act. Ito ay magte-take effect 15 days after publication in an official gazette. Ito ay na-publish sa official gazette noong July 9, 2023. At 15 days thereafter, which means that July 24, this will take effect. Now, of course, do not be confused. Effectivity and implementation are two different things. Ang implementation nito, it says also, it is provided for in the law that 60 days upon effectivity of this law, the triumvirate of the Presidential Agrarian Reform Council, the Land Bank of the Philippines, and the Department of Agrarian Reform should come up with an implementing set of implementing rules and regulations. And in fact, the President wanted us to hit the ground running. And therefore, even before the effectivity of this law, we are already starting to form the body that will formulate the IRR. Kaya hopefully, we finish it with the Lord's blessings. We will finish it, I think, on the birthday of the President. We'll try to finish it on that date.
That would be a great gift.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Secretary Estrella. Let's move on to the Department of Science and Technology, Secretary Solidum Jr. Science and Technology also had a lengthy mention in yesterday's SONA, being a driver for the competitiveness of our workforce and the various industries. How is DOST supporting the country's agenda for food security?
Thank you very much. This might also take a long answer to cover the coverage of DOST in agricultural production and the industry, from the production to consumption. First, we have to start with planning on what to plant, what kind of species or hybrid, or on the animals, how do we actually improve the breeds of our animals so that we can increase the production. We also need to look into how we can actually improve the harvest by looking at, one, the fertilizer, both in the soil and foliage fertilizer. For example, we have developed biofertilizer, the foliage fertilizer using carrageenan, where you can increase the production of rice, for example, from 15 to 30%. We also need to look at pest management. We have the smart application to reinvigorate the agriculture industry. Essentially, it's a crop management platform that can look into how we can manage the production of rice and corn, for example, and also project its potential harvest. We also need to look into the livestock industry by promoting our native pigs, native ducks, and also many others like goats. We also need to support the aqua industry. Post-harvest, harvest and post-harvest processes need to be improved as we lose a lot of our agricultural commodities on harvest alone. But if we can mechanize it together with the other departments, then we can reduce it. But beyond that, to transport the agricultural commodities to different areas in the Philippines, we need to develop smart packaging and green packaging. So we have laboratories to do that, to package these things well. And now we have the new simulation packaging laboratory where we can simulate if this packaging will withstand the ruggedness of our road until the DPWH will give us paved roads all over the country. Now, on the post-harvest value chain addition, we need to look into helping our farmers and micro, small, and medium enterprises get more value out of these agricultural products. So we use science, technology, and innovation to help our MSMEs to earn more by improving their product and improving their productivity. Now, of course, when we do all of this, the bottom line is, are we also looking into not only production, but also consumption? So we must look into sustainable production and consumption, where the other wastes of the agricultural products that we produce would also be used for other purposes where our farmers can get something out of it. Now, in the end, we can have enough food supply, but we have to make it nutritious. So we have the Food and Nutrition Research Institute that would provide us guidance. Sometimes the problem is not only production, but overconsumption. The bottom line is, for our body to be healthy, we need to eat right, the amount and the nutrition. So to summarize everything, sa siyensya at teknolohiya, ang pagsasaka aarangkada. Sa siyensya at teknolohiya, ang mga pagkain masagana at masustansya. At ang mga magsasaka at negosyante, pag ginamit ng siyensya at teknolohiya, tiyak, kikita sila.
Galing. Okay, thank you, Secretary Solidum. Let's move on to NEDA, Secretary Balisacan. What other projects should the government improve on in order to achieve a bagong Pilipinas that is secured when it comes to food production? What are the challenges that slows us down, and how can we combat this?
It's a very good, thank you, Daphne. It's a very good question and a difficult one. I think the food production can be best assured if farmers are making money. So the first question to ask is are farmers making enough to protect themselves in terms of what they need for themselves, for their families? Are they getting enough, say, profit? The usual metrics is output per hectare. Yun ang tinitingnan palagi ng mga ahensya natin. Pero ang mas importante rito, titingnan yung profit per hectare or profit per labor or profit per family that the farmers make. Kasi kung ganon ang metric, siguradong ma-incentivize yung farmers to produce more. At ayan yung ang sentro doon sa Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028. It focuses on achieving food security by addressing the issue of profitability at the farm level. And you look at prices of outputs, you look at prices of inputs, and you look at the productivity of the farm. And so, importante lahat yung mga sinabi ng mga kapanelists ko rito in terms of affecting the productivity, affecting prices. Like for example, sa land tenure, it has been proven and shown in the literature that when you own the land, you get a higher productivity from your use of your land, partly because you can use also that land as an instrument for accessing credit. And so the financial market will improve with improved security of farm tenure. Yung post-harvest facilities, post-harvest and logistics na sinasabi ng DOST palagi is yun. It also increases the earnings of farmers because that will reduce spoilage, will reduce transaction costs sa merkado, therefore mas mataas yung presyo na maiiwanan dun sa farmers. The concentration naman ng Department of Agriculture, lalo na dun sa pag-build ng irrigation systems, halimbawa, no? That allow farmers to plant twice, 3 times a year, that surely increases productivity. Ang medyo kulang tayo rito over the years is yung suporta sa R&D, Research and Development. Kasi kinakailangan din natin mag-produce ng new varieties, new technologies, new processes that are appropriate at the farm level. One thing that's unique about agriculture is the appropriateness of the technology depends so much on the context. Yung pwede sa Ilocos, medyo maaaring hindi pwede sa Mindanao, halimbawa. Yung malalaki mga farms sa Mindanao, maliliit sa Ilocos. Similarly, yung weather conditions, pest conditions are very different. So yung kapag sinasabi palagi, mag-import na lang tayo ng bagong varieties from China, we think that this will make sense here. Hindi, dahil iba-iba yung condition natin. So kinakailangan natin nang mag-invest ng R&D. And in the history of nations, you will find that countries that invest in R&D, especially for agriculture, will find their economic transformation much faster. Kasi kung productivity in agriculture is growing fast, the rest of the economy will grow fast. Food insecurity will not happen, and elevated prices will be moderated. Yun ang naging problema natin sa atin dahil in the past, no? Dahil palaging elevated yung prices every time na may problema sa agriculture, no? Inflation picks up, and when inflation is running wild, it destroys the entire economy. While increases in prices might benefit farmers, in the longer term, because high inflation will destroy the economy, even farmers will not in the end benefit from high prices. So yung trabaho ng NEDA is to look at these issues in balance, no? That make sure that the prices that we are seeing there are beneficial for farmers, but at the same time they are also not anti-consumers, that they will not impoverish the rest of the population, and that they will not lead to lack of competitiveness of our manufacturing, no? Because agriculture is also an important input for our manufacturing. To cut it short, we need a very strong agriculture to propel the rest of the economy, to get the socio-economic transformation that the President has mentioned in his SONA. to get food security, you need a very robust, strongly growing agriculture, because that, in a way, also allow the rest of the economy, particularly yung manufacturing, to grow faster. This is the medyo puzzle sa iba na kung malakas yung agrikultura, mas dadami yung trabaho sa non-agriculture, sa services, sa industry, sa manufacturing, at aalis yung mga labor sa agriculture. That in effect is while the importance of agriculture in the economy is reduced by a good performing agriculture, it is in fact contributing to economic transformation. Yun I think makikita natin na message doon ni Presidente na transformation ng agriculture, because you need that to ensure that the rest of the economy will move forward.
Thank you, Secretary Balisacan. Talagang napaka-importante kay President Marcos itong agriculture natin. So ibalik natin kay Yusek Sombilla. Nanawagan ang Pangulo para sa revision ng Fisheries Code at ng Cooperative Code. What are the important amendments that must be done?
Yeah, thank you again, Daphne. Yeah, dun sa Fisheries Code, I think it's really high time that we really have to revisit it. Kasi it's already 5 years or more, and I think some of the provisions there are no longer applicable to the current conditions, the changing environment. No, there are several provisions there. I don't know if these are all going to be the ones that are going to be. Kasi pinapag-aralan pa lang namin ngayon yung Fisheries Code and the provisions that are going to be, that needs to be amended. No. One is to include a chapter that will provide the fishery management to be more ecosystem-based. Ito'y kailangan natin because of the changing environment, yung climate change and all of these things, sustainability of all the resources, we really need to take care of those already. So we need to, emphasize the need for ecosystem-based management in terms of also of the fishery. No? Second would be a redefinition of the municipal fishing, no, within the municipal waters. Ngayon yata, even the 3-ton and above municipal fishing vessels are allowed. I think we need to, to control, limit them, or totally, eliminate them. Kasi I think, they will be destroying the municipal waters in that regard. Wala sa fishery code yung pre-border controls, which are very, very necessary to ensure food safety of the imported fish that gets into our country. No, so there's a need to establish offices that would really do this particular function, so that we are ensured that imported fish are really, safe, to get into our country. The users of municipal waters, I think we need to put already, or identify or put in place criteria on how the municipal water, the users of kumbaga yung kanilang the parameters that will and will not allow, municipal fishers to go into the water, continue fishing in municipal waters. Some of the criteria that we have been, the Bureau of Fishery and Aquatic Resources are thinking are, ano yung status ng stocks dun sa municipal waters? We need to, be ensured that, talagang we have so much stocks, fish stocks, for them to be able also na ma-maximize yung kanilang fishing activities. Yung catch limit, hanggang saan sila? Kasi kung minsan, kahit na maliliit na isda, sige lang. No? So dapat meron tayong catch limit. And the other one is the fishing days. So nakikita ninyo siguro, meron tayong mga close seasons na fishing dahil nga sa, kung minsan talagang na-overfished ang ating mga waters. And, kahit na maliliit, nakukuha, and which is not really, very good. The other provisions would be on the licensing, of course, of commercial fishing vessels. I think there needs to be provided yung allowable time for commercial fishing vessels to secure their or renew their licenses. Yung certificate of necessity to import, I think we really need to review that and review it very carefully. Kasi sometimes it's so limiting na kahit na kailangan na natin yung isda, hindi tayo makaka-import unless, there is really, a very good procedure by which we could really certify that there's a necessity to import. And I think the very, very information that we need here would be real-time supply and demand of the fishery, which I think our data information are still not, that real-time on a real-time basis. And of course, the last one would be on the National Fishing and Aquatic Resources Management Council, which I think, the current membership is not really, equitable. Parang kulang sa aquaculture, kulang sa processing sectors, and I think we really need to balance this, for this, for a more holistic, decisions and, and how to develop the fishing sector. Doon naman sa kooperativa, the cooperative code, the President has always wanted the Department of Agriculture to course through yung interventions niya sa cooperatives, no? I think that should be the way to go, to take advantage of economies of scale, to take advantage of logistics costs and all these things, reduce transport costs and everything. Kaya lang many of our cooperatives are not really, that prepared, to be able to execute or implement the interventions that the Department of Agriculture needs. So, what is being decided on or being proposed is to include an agricultural cooperative board within the CDA. That will really take care of what the agriculture sector needs. And I think there are other provisions there that, that needs to be also emphasized to really strengthen the CDA. Maraming mga kooperatiba na na-establish, but then hindi talaga sila nasusustain. I think they really need to be strengthened in terms of how they should run really the cooperatives. Kasi minsan, there are just really a few cooperatives that are really very successful. So I think yun ang kailangan, kaya yun ang panawagan ni Presidente na talagang dapat palakasin natin ang ating kooperatiba, because I think that is also that's the way by which we could really help the agriculture sector really ramp up.
Okay, thank you, Yusek Sombilla, for sharing all the plans for the amendments to the Fisheries and Cooperatives Code. Let's move on to the DTI again. Yusek Castelo. The President has always emphasized the strengthening of the agricultural value chain. What are the programs of the DTI that help in this mission?
Okay, thank you. Of course, Daphne, for that question. I just remembered looking back when the President in December 2022 called on the DTI to assist the Department of Agriculture in monitoring prices of onions at that time. We already, by the instruction of Secretary Pascual, activated several bureaus to act and provide assistance to the Department of Agriculture. So then it gave way to the market linkage that we're doing up to now. We are currently doing linking farmers and farmers cooperatives directly to the large business establishments, large agro-business entrepreneurs like SM, Pure Gold, Robinsons, so that they can get their supply directly from the farmers, minimizing the cost to the consumers. It's also going to be easier for the farmers to transport because the large entrepreneurs will be the one to cover costs or do the job for them. And this is just one. But the Secretary has a long-term plan, actually. Well, not very long-term because he has a 3-year a proposed action agenda that has been presented to the Economic Development Group. And please allow me to read his intention for this. He intends to adopt a supply chain control tower approach to manage our country's food logistics challenges. The food supply chain involves multiple stages from the farm gate to storage, distribution, and retail. Implementing a control tower approach in the food sector could provide real-time visibility into food availability, pricing, demand, and potential disruptions. Of course, this could help in managing food security issues, reducing food waste, and curbing cartelization, among other benefits. Of course, Secretary Pascual also considers that it would require significant investment in technology and infrastructure, data integration from multiple sources, coordination among numerous stakeholders, and regulatory compliance. So we have the 6-point action agenda. I will not delve into detail, but I'll just mention the action agenda one by one. We would like to revolutionize the Philippines' food distribution system from farm to fork. This would mean upgrading existing food terminals, and then we can explore additional food hubs, and of course, pilot the concept of agro-industrial business corridors in any of the areas in Baguio, Bataan, Clark, Cavite, etc. And then second is we can reduce transport and logistics costs. We would like to think that this might create a little bit of controversy. We want a moratorium on pass-through fees, a moratorium on the imposition of additional port fees and other charges, zero tolerance on gray costs, and legislation to regulate high international shipping charges. Controversial, but once it's done, it's going to provide us the results that we want. Number 3 is increasing investments in logistics infrastructure, such as transportation and storage. Of course, budgetary support would be necessary for logistics infrastructure. The Department of Public Works and Highways and the DTI are already working on it. We want a cold chain integrative distribution system. That is the full implementation of the system that is provided by the Philippine Cold Chain Industry Roadmap. And then on the 4th, we want to address other supply chain gaps, such as logistics and distribution, post-harvest management, market linkages, market information, and market access to finance. And the 5th is to heighten enforcement measures against hoarding, smuggling, overstaying of food imports, and monitoring of warehouses or cold storage facilities. We have already started discussing monitoring of cold storage facilities with the Department of Agriculture. And of course, we also want to revitalize the subtask group on economic intelligence, which we have done in the past, and which has actually generated a lot of results. If this is institutionalized, maybe through an executive order or through whatever order of the president, this task group could produce a lot of results and probably help even a bit in preventing smuggling. And then the 6th is using ICT to improve logistics performance, from streamlining and automation of government permits and licenses to the integration of systems within the logistics ecosystem. So you see, these are the 6 action point agendas that we want to implement, and we hope that after the proposal that was made to the Economic Development Group would be approved, because there will be several asks. We will need several legislations, maybe through an executive order or through legislation by Congress, in order to be able to do this. Our deliverables, if this is approved and legislated by 2026, we would have achieved, number 1, reduced logistics cost. Second, interoperable transport and logistics related systems. We will have at least one food hub in any of the high-growth areas in Metro Manila or Region 3 or Region 4A established. We would have at least one food terminal upgraded into a Mercato or a Rungis type. And then key food logistics infrastructures identified, funded, and built. This would include the Roll It, the Let's Eat, or Let's Go. And then private sector investments in cold storage warehouses technology will be present. Warehouse registry developed, which we have been wanting to do also and looking for it actually. And we would have streamlined government processes and available online. We have certain asks. The first, of course, is the approval of this food logistics action agenda. And then the issuance of presidential directives, creating an interagency committee on food logistics, and of course, institutionalization of the economic intelligence subtask group. And then, of course, the consideration of proposed issuances by Congress. So these are some of the things that we have been planning to do. And once approved, in the next 3 years, you have heard already the deliverables that we know we would have achieved if this is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusek Castelo. Now let's move on to the DILG again, Yusek Parasaba. Okay, Pasaraba.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Urban planting began to make its way back during the pandemic, and it is one of the projects being implemented now by the DILG. Halina't magtanim ng prutas at gulay sa barangay project, or HAPAG. Very close to me because I'm an urban farmer and a weekend farmer.
Wow.
Tell us about the success of this program and the other plans of the DILG in support of food security.
Yeah, Ms. Daphne, I remember I said a while back that we have like more than 42,000 barangays nationwide. Can you imagine if these barangays really have collective efforts in raising food security, awareness, production, marketing, etc.? This will be like they are backbones for food security. Other than that, you know, the halina't magtanim ng prutas at gulay is a call for our barangays to really reinforce and solidify their fundamental role for a community-based gardening. And food security has to start right at the doorstep, Ms. Daphne. And there's no better way to really achieve food security but to increase consciousness, leadership, and as well as commitment of our barangay officials down to the household level. It is in this respect that after the issuance, of course, of that MC reinforcing, strengthening barangay institutions, we had 19,000, more than 19,000 barangays signed up and committed really to make idle lands more productive by using the youth sector, women's sector for household gardening as well as community-based gardening so that food security really means to be achieved. And you know, I would like to introduce the DILG, not only on the police force, not only the LGU, but we are more on the governance reforms. It is in this respect that for food security as the one of the important and primordial goals of the president of this leadership, the DILG is of support to really strengthen local institutions. One of which, of course, is the rationalization of our permits, rationalization of fees for our UBRA brothers and sisters, for our vendors, for our fish associations, as well as other players of our food logistical support system. You know, the LGUs have local autonomy, but we want them to be like more or less supportive of the local economy as well as the recovery programs, of course, of the government. Similarly, we have the PNP, the BFP and BJMP law enforcers. We can tap, or we have the good secretary instructed them to be more of policing. Okay, in terms against suspect hoarders, and of course, those enterprises that have commodity prices unconscionable or really, unreasonable. And the DILG, as part of its governance reforms, would like also to incentivize innovations of local government units. That's why we have the SGLG Incentive Fund, the Local Government Support Fund, as well as other assistance to our local government units, putting primacy food security projects or initiatives. This will form part of our policy development effort to really bring to the consciousness of today's leadership, particularly our local chief executives, to really put, on their priority list, food security initiatives for food production, supply, marketing, access, and infra support as well. Finally, we would like to report that our local government units have indeed demonstrated excellent, if not good practices, best practices in the light of food security. One of which is the municipality of Pidig, Ilocos Norte. Am I right? Ilocos Norte, right. Wherein it's like a comprehensive, a more integrative approach to farming system, okay? Tapping all sectors to produce quality, quantity, more quantity, as well as increased income for our farmers. We have also one barangay in the municipality or in the province of Rizal that really had shown commitment and leadership in terms of propagating food security at the household level. QC Grow is also a good example of urban planting or gardening. And of course, Bro Project of Isabela is one that's really very sustainable. That's all about it.
Wow, thank you so much, Yusek Pasaraba, especially for the case studies that you had mentioned. Very nice stories. Thank you. Department of Agrarian Reform, Secretary, the President aims to boost local agricultural production. How is the DAR helping realize this goal?
Oh yes, the very early steps that we have taken is that we have provided so much farm-to-market roads, and especially bridges, so that our agrarian reform beneficiaries can have access to their farms. And we too have aggressively and have accelerated the distribution of titles to our farmers. So that means that there are additional lands now that are being used by our farmers, and this translates to more food being produced by our farmers. And in the future, what we are doing now is that we are laying down the groundwork so that we can further boost food security here in our country. And we are about to embark on what we call the black and white revolution. Yung black and white revolution, yan ay ang kalabaw, kulay itim, at ang kanyang gatas na kulay puti. Kaya black and white revolution. Because when we hired data scientists, how we could increase the income of the farmers and how we can contribute in food production. Ang nakalagay doon ay kailangan bigyan natin ng livestock ang ating mga agrarian reform beneficiaries. So yan ang gagawin namin, and we will also encourage our agrarian reform beneficiaries na magkaroon sila ng mga tinatawag na plant once and eat forever. To engage in plant once and eat forever. Katulad halimbawa ng malunggay, kanina lang kamiting namin yung mga nag-spearhead ng malunggay, at we will engage in propagation and distribution of these plants. Malunggay, meron kang yung fruit, meron kang yung leaves, and by the way, yung malunggay pala, nagkaroon ng famine somewhere in Africa. And those who were able to survive were those who had malunggay plants. And then, bamboo. Sa China, marami nang nagtatanim dati ng palay, nag-switch sila sa bamboo. Mas malaki ang kita nila sa bamboo, may lumber sila, at meron pa silang bamboo shoots. Tapos yung tinatawag na bago sa Malaysia, ang tawag dyan, melinjo. Yan mga yan. Yung katuday, sa amin mga Ilocano, kilala yan. Yan sila Yusek Leo, Sebastian, yan sila Administrator Gillian. Yung mga katulad naming Ilocano, kabisado namin yan. Sila Secretary, ating Secretary ng DPWH, si Manny Bonoan, at ganun din ang ating NEDA. Kilala nila yan, mga gulay na yan, na minsan lang itatanim, ngunit pitas ka ng pitas, kain ka ng kain. Yan mga yan na ano. And there are other things, and we are introducing to our agrarian reform beneficiaries new technology. Katulad na halimbawa, itong tinatawag na rimas, o sa English ay breadfruit, na siyang staple food ng mga Polynesian. Sa Polynesia, alam ninyo, napakababa ang incidence ng diabetes sapagkat hindi sila kumakain masyado ng kanin. Ang kanilang staple food ay itong tinatawag na breadfruit or rimas. Pero mahirap i-propagate ito. And the way to do it is using using tissue culture laboratories. At nabigay na ang agrarian reform sa mga agrarian reform beneficiaries ng tissue culture laboratories upang mag-propagate kami ng mga pananim na minsanan lang ang tanim, ngunit habang buhay ka namimitas at habang buhay ka pinapakain. Kaya yan ang mga ginagawa namin ngayon. And we hope to develop and work hand in hand also with the Department of Science and Technology. At yan nga ang pinagmamaritesan namin dalawa kanina ni Secretary, na yung menu nila ng bagong teknolohiya. At yan i-introduce namin sa atin mga magsasaka. Katulad halimbawa na bakit hindi natin gamitin sa ating mga feeding program, no? Yung malunggay, very nutritious yan. At gamitin din natin, mag-umpisa rin tayong mag-alaga ng rabbit. Alam niyo, umattend ako ng rabbit convention about 5 years ago. Magmula noon, ako rin ay nag-alaga ng rabbit at ngayon ay ako'y namimigay ng rabbit. Nung una, marami nagsasabi, alam nyo kasi ang rabbit, napakabilis dumami ng rabbit. Meron akong alaga doon sa probinsya, ang dami-dami ngayon. At pinapatikim ko sa atin mga kababayan, nagugustuhan naman nila. Ito lang ang nakukuha kong komento, ang sinasabi ng iba, ang hirap naman kainin yan, sabi nila. Ang cute-cute. Sabi ko naman sa kanila, nanood kayo ng Babe, yung biik, hindi ba? Nanonood kayo ng mga Disney characters, merong manok. O yung Babe, sinasabi ninyo, ang cute-cute ng baboy. Kain naman kayo ng kain ng lechon, hindi ba? Pero yung rabbit, si Bugs Bunny, hindi naman talaga cute hindi ba? Pagkatapos, kain tayo ng kain ng manok. Pag kinakatay yung manok, ang ingay-ingay. Hindi ba? Yung rabbit, pag kinatay mo, wala namang kibo. Hindi ba? Sino ang nakakaawang katayin ngayon? Yung manok o yung rabbit? Hindi ba? Kaya, we should open our minds and we start it with the next generation of Filipinos. Bakit sa France? Bakit sa Amerika? Kumakain sila ng rabbit. At isa ito sa mga inaalagaan ng mga magsasaka. Ang liit-liit na lugar lang ang kailangan. Samantalang kung meron kang, hindi ko sinasabing huwag tayong mag-alaga ng manok o kahit ano pa, no? Ngunit, kasi kapag nag-alaga tayo ng rabbit, ang liit na lugar ang kailangan at maliit lang ang kapital. At walang sakit. Kapag nag-alaga ka naman ng manok, kung nakawala yan sa iyong bakuran, mabilis nga dumami, ngunit pag dinaanan ng peste, patay silang lahat. O pag dinaanan ng kapitbahay mo na mahilig din sa manok, patay din silang lahat. So, yan mga bagay na yan ay ini-introduce natin sa atin mga agrarian reform beneficiaries. Unti-unti, nakikinig naman sila. Unti-unti natin na binubuksan ang kanilang mata sa mga pwedeng kainin na dati-dati ay hindi naman natin binibigyan ng pansin. So, yan. Ito ang mga ginagawa natin ng agrarian reform ngayon.
Thank you, Secretary Estrella. I don't know if I'll look at a rabbit the same way again. I'll always remember you now. Okay, let's move on.
I will let you taste it.
Oh, okay.
I will cook it myself. And
I have
will
an
let
open
you
mind.
taste it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we shall try that one day. Let's move on to DOST again. This is our final question, I believe. It was said that 2 satellites have been launched into space. What kind of information can these provide, and how is this beneficial to food production?
Aside from the 2 recently launched microsatellites and the existing operational satellite that we have, we also use other satellites where we download data for various purposes. Of course, DOST is known for developing technologies to be applied, but we also conduct research and development on how these technologies, especially space application technologies, can be done. For example, can be used for food security. So for example, we can use satellite images to characterize water and soil characteristics. Soil health is a big problem now, especially soil erosion. So we should actually do an inventory of all of those areas. And we need to prevent soil erosion, and we can monitor this using satellite. Second, we need water for the growth of plants. So if we can combine remote sensing or space images together with ground-based data, then we can look at when to irrigate, because we can sense the soil moisture, and Pag-asa can actually do a climate forecast that is provided to our agricultural community. We can monitor the agricultural production. When there's a disaster, we can immediately have a reconnaissance of which areas were damaged. So we can actually use remote sensing images. And by the way, we can also use remote sensing images to monitor the farm-to-market road and the bridges that the 2 secretaries mentioned. So, meron din po kaming i-monitor kung ang progress po ay pwede po natin gamitin para yung progress nyo po ay madaling masundan. Hindi po espionage yun, kundi monitoring. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary Solidum. This has been a very interesting discussion. I wish we could go on. Thank you. Maraming salamat sa ating mga panelists. At ang ating food security cluster ay siyang namamahala sa pagpapatupad ng mga direktiba ni President Marcos Jr. pagdating sa pagkain. Para ang bawat Pilipino ay magkaroon ng sapat, masustansya at abot-kayang pagkain sa kanilang mga mesa. Yan ang bagong Pilipinas. Join us again tomorrow for the second day of our 2023 Post-SONA discussions. We will have with us the following clusters: poverty reduction at 12, environmental protection and disaster management at 2 p.m., and good governance, peace, and security at 4 p.m. This has been Daphne Osanya Paez. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon in the 2023 Post-SONA discussions.